Triple E EDC back again with another knife video. So I'm going to tell you guys why I think you should not buy the Microtech Socom Bravo or the Microtech Kyroh at all. I know it's a big release and a lot of people are excited for it, but I do not think members of the knife community should be going ahead and supporting what is going on at Microtech. And it is not the thing that you think that I'm going to say. So a lot of people are aware that Microtech has been an American company for a long time, and there's been a lot of backlash over the fact that Microtech has moved, at least these two new models, their production is going to be out of China, and their Reich Knife is the partner that they're doing that with. There's nothing bad with Reich Knives. Reich Knives makes great knives, and I have no concerns about the quality. That's not why I have an issue, and it's not even the fact that it's out of China, is my issue. That's a whole separate issue, and that's an issue you guys can feel free to debate in the comments, but it's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to talk about what they're doing with dealers, and why the knife community in general should be really, really, really concerned about this. And it's a topic that I think should be a lot more discussed in the knife community right now. So first of all, I will say that anything in this video is my opinion. I'm not getting this from any dealers. I'm not getting this from anyone. It's something that I noticed as sort of a trend in the industry, and I wanted to see if is social influence a thing? Is this something that we can get started as a discussion in social media to really head off what I see as a big problematic trend, and that is manufacturers cutting out dealers. So you guys may remember buck knives for a while, where they were only available through dealers. Obviously, you could get Walmart and stuff for certain models of buck knives, but Walmart was essentially a dealer for that. It wasn't a specific knife dealer; it was just a retailer that ended up selling it. And you could say the same, I guess, with Amazon and everything like that. But knife dealers, that specialize in knives were one of the places where you could go and buy buck knives for a long time. And you had places like SK Blades, which I can't tell if it's defunct now or what exactly happened to SK Blades, but Buck basically cut out their entire business model by moving all of their sales in-house. What they used to go through dealers and everything, and now, other than going and buying your Buck 110 at Walmart, they're not really shipping to dealers, right? So they're selling everything on their website in-house, and that is a trend that I hadn't really seen a ton of other dealers, doing. I saw Benchmade, obviously, when they initially released the Meat Crafter, they only released it on their website. They have some I think they have some other limited releases on their website. The kitchen knives and everything that they've been doing. And it's a little concerning to see Benchmade do it as big as they are. But now we're sort of seeing Microtech do this. Now the Socom Bravo and the Kyroh are going to be they're going to be listed exclusively on Microtech's website. Microtech said as much in the release video when they released the video on YouTube, and in the video they say exclusively available on their website. And this is a trend that you can clearly see is happening. That they're not going through dealers, they're going through their website. And the obvious thing that's next is, well, once they get the logistics up and running on their website, what is going to happen with the rest of their inventory? Are they going to still use dealers? Are they going to be exclusively through their website? There are smaller smaller makers that are going exclusively through their website, especially makers that are ordering large batches from Chinese companies like Rayot or We. They're offering them not through dealers, but through their websites. And that's not to say that American made knives also can't be done in-house, but it's just an example of sort of industry trends here. And let me go ahead and show you guys, because I've been talking about 4 minutes already, 4.5 minutes, without actually showing you guys the Socom Bravo and the Kyroh. If you guys haven't seen it, this is what it looks like. The Socom Bravo, it's kind of cool to see a titanium and carbon fiber Socom. I really like the Socom Elite, but I'm not in love with the Bravo blade design, but it's good to see sort of the Socom design in titanium and carbon fiber. You've got these kind of cool bolt action pens here, which again, I think it's a cool thing that they're doing, but I do not like the way, and again, the China thing aside, you guys can tackle that one in the comments if you want. You know, everything aside, the fact that they're only offering this through their website is a problem. All right, let's talk about the reasons why. Why is this such a problem? Why shouldn't it be more of a trend to go away from dealers, to go you know, more towards makers doing individual sales on their website? Well, the first reason is that makers are all different sizes, right? And so Microtech is one size, but they're, you know, and Benchmade is another size. Buck Knives is another size. You know, every dealer, or I'm sorry, every maker has its own size, and they would have to deal with you know, issues on their own, which I'll get to in a minute. But one of the big issues that you're going to lose out on, I believe, by getting away from dealers is customer service. Now, why do I think dealers aren't going to provide customer service? I think they will to an extent, but I don't think you're going to get the same thing. Anyone who's, you know, I'm an attorney. Anyone who's been an attorney and dealt with court reporters probably knows what I'm talking about. My family is a bunch of insurance salesmen. Anyone who's sold insurance, probably as a broker, probably knows what I'm talking about here. And that is that that you're going. Customer service is an essential element of an industry where, you know, the item isn't unique to you, right? So when you're a broker and you're selling insurance, any broker can sell you the same products, right? And when you're a court reporter, any court reporter can really provide the same services for the most part, right? And you know, they're all about the same price. Same thing with insurance agents. The insurance companies usually pay the commissions. So it's all about the same price to the consumer. But those are things where customer service really, really matters. And so you're going to get insurance agents, for example, who really, really know the products to the point where they're offering incredible financial advice, you know, along with the products, because they know them in and out. They can match them to you specifically. It's not really a big deal. What happens when you went to, you know, when single payer healthcare was being floated, you know, in the country, and I don't want to get political, but single payer healthcare, one of the main concerns was you create a system where the exchanges, if everything was single payer, it wouldn't be the exchanges the way they are now. But essentially, the people who would be selling the insurance would be low-level government employees, you know, and they probably would not have extensive training on products available. Now, would there be less of products available if they're single payer? Probably. But, you know, the choice would go down, and the customer service will go down. And the same is true, I believe, for the knife industry. You know, customer service is survival for dealers. You know, any dealer, or anyone with enough purchasing power can become a dealer, right? And, you know, whether you have good service, bad service, whatever it is, the ones that have staying power usually have a couple of good things going for them. One is maybe they just have an incredible inventory, right? And they're able to keep just an incredible inventory. But a lot of times it's the customer service. There are, and I know Blade HQ is very large, and you know, they have nothing to do with this video, but I'm just using them as an example. But because they're one of the larger knife retailers, right? They have a level of customer service, but it's not as individualized, right? And you know, then you go a little bit bigger and you have Amazon, you know, or Walmart, which are not actually knife dealers, but they carry knives as essentially a dealer would. They're a retailer, and their customer service is crap, right? So as you get bigger and bigger, you have some problems with customer service, but also as customer service becomes less integral to your business model, it also becomes problematic. So, you know, with Microtech, for example, or any knife maker who is implementing a customer service regimen, you're dealing with a smaller scale customer service. You're probably not going to have your policies and procedures down. Those are going to be a huge work in progress for a long time. You know, you're probably not going to have your the right people in place. Those are going to be a huge work in progress for a long time. You're probably not going to be, you know, those people aren't going to be as motivated to find the right products for the buyer. You know, maybe a Microtech isn't the right product for a buyer. This is where recommendations come in from knife retailers. A good knife retailer with good customer service can make a recommendation for you of a knife that will work for your needs. You tell them your needs, they'll tell you a knife that will work for you. You know, if you're an independent broker in insurance, you can sell anyone in, you know, any product at any time, right? But if you work for MetLife or any particular insurance company, well, you're only selling MetLife products or that, you know, or Lincoln Financial, right? Only those products. You are not selling other products. So when you make a recommendation to the customer, it may not actually be the best thing for them. It just may be the best thing you have for them, which is a big difference. So it's a huge loss of customer service and finding the right thing for your needs. Another thing that's an issue is, you know, the relationships and the purchasing power that some of these retailers have. I mean, some of these dealers have that that the makers may not have, right? So a dealer is going to be able to put in huge purchase orders for exclusives. You know, a lot of those Spyderco exclusives that everyone loves. You know, the all sorts of different exclusives with steels and handle materials and all sorts of things. Those larger scale productions, if you did them in-house at a maker, they would be much more of a logistical nightmare. You know, because and one of the reasons is, think about when these drops happen, right? When a new knife drops or an exclusive or whatever, when those drops happen, what ends up happening is there's so many people flooding the site for those things and the bots and everything else that it often crashes the site, and these drops go horribly, right? And that's at dealers who have really, you know, who have a website, who are used to traffic in incredible numbers. I mean, very large numbers of traffic is what they're used to, and their sites still crash. Although many of them do an excellent job of making sure they don't crash. There's been a lot of progress in that regard. If Microtech or, you know, let's say Spyderco decided to sell direct only, you know, they already sell the mules direct only. Let's say if Spyderco sold direct only, what would end up happening is you'd end up with a whole bunch of traffic. Anyone who's on the I lost my train of thought for a second, but anyone who was on the mule drop for MagnaCut probably understands how frustrating that drop was, right? Spyderco was expecting that drop. They were expecting that drop, and that wasn't even that popular of a model. It's just a popular steel, right? The mules are popular, but I mean, not so popular that they should crash the site, right? And the MagnaCut one it was crashing the site incredibly for like 2 hours straight, right? It was a huge problem, and it's and Spyderco is a I mean, they're a larger company than Microtech. I would imagine that their website is maintained better than what Microtech's going to put out. Is that a sure thing? No, Microtech could invest the money and actually have a much better website. Who knows? Their website's forthcoming. But as far as the back end and making sure the site doesn't crash during some of these massive drops, I have zero confidence that a maker is going to be able to pull off the same level of smoothness to those drops that these dealers can pull off, and that has to do with the amount of foot traffic they see normally, right? You're going to see a lot more foot traffic on a dealer that carries everything than you are on one individual maker's website. It's just, you know, so on any given day, the amount of and I'm not a computer guy, so, but the amount of bandwidth or whatever that you're using on Microtech's website or whatever individual maker's website it is going to pale in comparison to what these larger or many of the larger retailers or dealers, I'm sorry, are doing. Next is liquidity. Okay, Microtech's business model would have to drastically change in order to not have a ripple effect in the community if they were to move their entire operations onto their website. And I don't know that they are going to move their entire operations onto their own website and cut out dealers, but it's a concern I have based on industry trends and based on the fact that they're already sort of doing that with the Bravo and the Kyroh. So the liquidity issue is dealers take on massive purchase orders from these makers, including Microtech. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars in purchase orders, in inventory that's sitting at one particular time, maybe even upwards of more than that, depending on the size of the dealer, right? So you're getting, I mean, you have tons of inventory that a lot of these dealers end up purchasing. and does a lot of it go fast? Yes, a lot of it goes fast, but a lot of it sits. There's a bunch of models that are always available on dealer websites. You know, some of the models are perpetually out of stock on pretty much every website across the board, every dealer across the board, and some of them are perpetually in stock at every dealer across the board. And there's a reason for that. Not every model sells out, and oftentimes, you know, I'm sure when these dealers are doing purchase orders, they're taking in more of stuff they already have in stock in order to get the stuff that they don't have in stock. So, you know, the liquidity is, if Microtech has this stuff sitting on their shelves, there's no cash in the pocket to invest or to reinvest in new designs, new tooling, new equipment, new employees. You know, you're tying up a ton of money in inventory. Anyone who's ever run a business with inventory will understand how that's going to impact a business. And it's really, you know, it's going to have a much bigger effect, I think, than a company like Microtech or other companies would realize. Next thing on this is sorry, I'm looking at my notes, guys. There's no need if you're not cutting out deals. If you have dealers, there's no need to have nearly as much warehousing to house the inventory, or staff to work the inventory, or shipping logistics to deal with shipping and fulfillment, right? You're going to need massive logistics in order to deal with this. And this sort of brings me to the issue of dealers essentially consolidate logistics. One of the reasons dealers are successful is they're able to consolidate the logistics needs of all these dealers. I mean, of all these makers. So, you know, Microtech can ship out a huge order, all in the same crate or box or however they get shipped, to whichever retailer they're sending stuff to, and that person or that company would be responsible then for individually fulfilling orders and getting each of those things shipped out to all the different people. And that is a massive headache that Microtech, you know, for a company that is so far behind on keeping up with inventory, you know, as far as the models, as far as many of the popular models. Now, I'll say that, again, there's some models that are perpetually in stock pretty much everywhere. But they're so far behind that, you know, certain models keep getting snatched up as soon as they're dropped, right? So for a company like that, to spend so much focus on logistics is going to set them further back, right? One rule of business is do what you do perfectly and then expand, right? So and look, I know that it's not Microtech's fault that some of the materials aren't available and everything from COVID. And I'm not trying to just rail on Microtech because, look, guys, I love Microtech. I have had a lot of Microtechs. I've had like 30 Microtechs. I may have said this already. And these are all Microtechs that I currently have. So I really like Microtech. So don't think that I don't like Microtech. But I do think that that this trend is a trend that really gets under my skin. Because I think that it's a bad trend for the industry overall. And again, Microtech is not the only company doing this. We've seen it a little bit with Spyderco with the mules and some other things, some of the mugs and different things that they sell through their website. The new PM2 from Colorado, they sold exclusively through their website. We've seen it with Benchmade, as I said. We've seen it with Buck Knives. They're not the only ones. But it is the most recent one, which is why I wanted to talk about it. Next thing is look, quality control. So one of the things that, one of the reasons to stay away from Walmart and Amazon and those types of large retailers when dealing with purchasing higher end production knives, these are expensive knives. This is over $1,000. This is, $800 or so. So they're expensive knives, and if you buy through Amazon, one of the concerns Amazon always has, even for something that's $300 or something, if you buy through Amazon, there's a high likelihood that somebody else took advantage of their generous return policy and bought a real knife, let's say a real Ultratech, for example, had a cloned one, and I'm just talking about one. They usually do them in batches. They'll buy like 10 and return 10, right, or something. And then they replace them all when they return them with clones, right? Nobody at Amazon knows what a clone looks like. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, doesn't Microtech know their own clones? Probably, but don't forget, it's not the main people at Microtech who are going to be doing fulfillment. They would hire people specifically for fulfillment, and then would have to make sure they're trained up in what the inventory looks like. And maybe they'll do that, maybe they won't. But it's just another one of those things that you have to look out for. Dealers know that they have to look out for this, and they know that that when they take a return, because dealers do not like taking returns. It's not like it's not like a maker, I feel, would be more compelled to take a return than, and maybe that's unfounded, than a dealer. But a lot of dealers don't like to take returns. They do, but they don't like to. And so when they come back, what they'll do is they'll inspect them, and they'll really give a good inspection to make sure they're not being duped. There's less of a worry that, all right, that box comes in, it's got a clone in it, it goes on the shelf, and then it goes out with an order, and nobody really checks it, right? Another thing that customer service related that dealers do is you put something in the notes. Hey, check the action on my knife before you send it out. Go ahead and check for quality control, check for centering, check for scratches on the handle, on the blade, whatever it is, right? Do that quality control check and check the lockup, check for lock stick, right? Any of those different things that you can ask a dealer to do. I don't know that you would get those same things at an individual maker's, if you're ordering directly from an individual maker. And by the way, it would vary from maker to maker, whereas it wouldn't vary quite as much from dealer to dealer, because that level of customer service needs to be there or the dealer won't have the business. Whereas, if you have a company like Microtech, if you want a Microtech, you have to go to Microtech. You don't have another option for customer service. Another thing that dealers do is dealers can track industry-wide sales trends. They can know what's hot, have that on order, and can convince the makers to make more of a certain model or make less of a certain model. Do the makers always listen? Probably not. But exerting that pressure, especially from a larger scale buyer, like a dealer, onto a maker, is something that sort of keeps a market check there. So I think that's important. Next is, and this is important to me, which is, it is highly likely makers will not deal with weird payment systems. PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, PayPal credit, installment payments like Afterpay or Sezzle, right? So I don't think that you're going to see that as an option with direct sales. You don't really see it from Benchmade. You don't see it from Spyderco. I don't think you're going to see it from Microtech. Microtech's website isn't quite up yet, but as far as their website they're going to sell their products off of. So it's a big issue for me because, and I think a lot of you guys might be in the same boat as me. I have my play money and I have my, money for my family, and my play money goes into my PayPal. And if I want to buy a knife, I have my PayPal. And let's say I wanted to buy this knife, which is, I think it was $800 or so, $700-800. And if I want to buy it and not hear from my wife about spending $700-800 on a knife, then I will do it through PayPal. And if a dealer accepts PayPal, then that helps me pay for it. Same thing with Afterpay or Sezzle. If it's much easier for some spouses to swallow a thing that's a payment that's in installments than a $700-800 payment all at once, right? So having those payment options through dealers is an incredible service that the dealers do for the knife industry, or for the knife community, because just there's so much of the knife community is done through PayPal and Cash App and all these other things, and the fact that dealers take some of these things and take some of the installments financing, it's a huge service to the knife community that I do not think is going to be available direct from makers. So the next thing on here is reward systems. So one of the things that dealers do, a lot of dealers, not all dealers, but a lot of dealers, is they have reward systems. You buy, consistently through that dealer, or every time you make a purchase through that dealer, you get a certain number of rewards points or dollars, or however they term it in their reward system. And those reward systems end up paying off pretty quickly, especially if you buy knives like I do, meaning, you're just constantly buying, right? Or you buy a lot for collecting. Even if you're buying just, here or there, it really helps pay off, because a lot of them, you end up with, hey, I've got enough points for a free knife, or, some of them even let you cash in your points before you can qualify for a free knife and just get a certain amount of dollars off your knife that you're ordering currently. So it makes it a lot easier, a lot cheaper to get into the business of collecting, because you're being given discounts on knives you're going to buy anyway, which gives you more money for more knives. So anyway, I'm sure I'm forgetting some of the good things that dealers do for the knife community. I'll mention one more thing, which is there are several dealers that are active on social media with people. Now, is that to say that Microtech or Benchmade or Spyderco or Buck is not active on their social media? No, but it's a lot. I believe it's a lot better for a person who's interested in knives, unless they're only interested in one brand, to engage with social media that's going to expose them to several different options, or several different just a variety of knives and brands and different things. And also, frankly, the engagement from the people in those communities, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Reddit, all those things, the engagement from those people end up teaching you almost as much as as the dealers will teach you, or and then a lot of the dealers will end up doing special deals. A lot of them, Blade HQ, Smoky Mountain Knife Works, DLT. There's a lot of dealers that will do holiday promotions, and do the makers. Could the makers do potentially some of those holiday promotions themselves? Yeah, they could, but I don't think they would be as motivated to do them in the way that they do. I honestly think dealers are the ones that push for that more than anything, and that's a huge service as well. So if you guys can think of anything else that I'm forgetting, leaving out, the ways that dealers are helpful, or even if you want to argue that makers should. I mean, maybe you want to argue with me. Maybe you want to say I'm wrong, and you want to go ahead and drop a line in the comments and tell me why makers should sell direct, right? Is that something you guys actually disagree with me on? Do you think they should sell direct, right? So drop those things in the comments. I'd love to have a discussion about these things going on. This is such an important issue, I think, to the knife industry, because it's really going to cause sweeping changes all across the knife industry. It's something that's sort of been building for a while, but I think the way, Microtech, and I'm not meaning to pick on Microtech, but they're a bigger maker who sort of made a major release only through their website. Some of these other releases were a little bit more obscure. The Benchmade kitchen knives, the Buck didn't really make a go of because they don't have like a groundswell of the enthusiast community, I should say. They definitely have a huge following as far as the casual knife person. But as far as the enthusiast community, I don't think the Buck has as much of a groundswell of support. But a lot of these other, Benchmade with the kitchen knives, Spyderco with the Mule series and everything, those were sort of more casual, smaller releases than a wide-scale release of a major product rollout like Microtech has. So I'm not picking on Microtech specifically, because they're not the only ones doing this in the industry. But they just happen to be the most widely known example of it right now, and I think it's so important to point out. This has been an over 30-minute video. I did not expect it to last this long. If you watched the whole thing, if you bore with me through the entire thing, more power to you. Thank you guys. If you want more content like this, also let me know below. I really appreciate it. Give the video a like, little thumbs up there on the video, and or if you don't like it and think I'm wrong, go ahead and give it a dislike. That's fine too. And go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you get all my content. Thank you guys for watching.